Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Podcasting to you from a field here in beautiful rural Ireland, I'm Trev Downey, and this is the Anfield Index Pro transfer show, which means that you are about to meet Dave Davis. How are you, man?
Yeah, good. Missed you, mate.
Feelings mutual, buddy, and now we've got lots to talk about, so that's going to be interesting. Very little catch-up time for pleasantries because there's a lot of stuff happening. Now, We're going to do these as the next couple of weeks pan out because obviously it's pretty much all anyone's talking about. You open any website today and it's endless Jude Bellingham articles. It's endless shots of Hendo and Bellingham looking at each other and Trent smiling happily and people looking anxiously at whether he might join Liverpool. And, you know, it's that time of the year. It's the most wonderful time of the year, Dave. So we're going to get straight into it. But it's all been coloured a little bit, obviously, by the bigger picture of the Liverpool ownership situation. And that has taken a little lurch forward with a David Lynch article yesterday about a proposed Saudi-Qatari joint bid. I just want to get your take on this. Whether you think it has any legs. Lynch is usually reasonably reliable. I'm fairly sure he certainly has a history of being one of the ones who used to be in the know. What do you make of this, man?
It's one of these, Trev. You're right. He has history. He's reliable, David Lynch. He's one of them, though. Would you put him in the top tier with like Neil Jones, Paul Joyce, James Pearce, that type of thing? I'm not 100% sure. That being said, though, as they say, there's no smoke without fire. I would be personally astonished if there's not interest from that area of the world in Liverpool. That's the key starting point for me. Absolutely astonished if there's not. I think the other club down the East Lancs Road will also create interest, and we might lose a few bidders that people have said to them. I think the story, though, the one thing that intrigues me, saying that Saudi and Qatari link up, I mean, without going too in depth, there's been big differences between those countries, hasn't there, in recent times? So that is quite surprising. However, they do have a joint bid coming. I don't know if it was for the Olympics or World Cup, probably a bit of a lack of knowledge there on my part, but I know that joint bid is coming. So if it is true, Trev, unbelievable wealth, but unbelievable human rights record at the same time. So there's a different discussion there. But I would be very, very surprised if there's not massive interest from that neck of the woods, put it that way.
That's my take as well, is that it makes no sense that if we are an acquirable asset, that there would not be people, the most wealthy people, looking at that. So that makes sense to me. And anything beyond that is speculation anyway, and it remains to be seen whether there's anything to it. But it's just, like I said, it's kind of the elephant in the room, worth addressing before we look at what might be happening with Liverpool. And of course, my conspiratorial tinfoil hat is always gleaming and always reflecting light left, right, and centre. So you wonder how much information, knowledge is actually known in the background, what amount of the speculation is just that, and what is actually almost inevitable perhaps in the background. We don't know any of that, unfortunately. We're not in the know. So we can only look at these windows and sort of try to make an assumption that the club will be run in the most progressive way possible by people who have good intentions and aren't hedging their bets or anything else like that. that's what we kind of have to do, Dave. So with that in mind, we know what we would like to happen and we know what is likely to happen. One of the stories that's dominating everybody's attention, and you can see the wide variety of fan opinion here, is the Bobby Firmino story of contract renewal. It seemed to be very much in the headlines, and now it's gone away again.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Yeah, it was a weird one. It kind of, like you said, in the headlines, it reached a fever pitch, and we all thought, this is probably just a matter of picking up the pen and signing on the dotted line. But you're right, it has gone quiet. So from what we've sort of investigated, from what we found out, there is an offer on the table to Bobby as it stands right now. And that offer has been there for a little while as well. It's obviously not signed. It does seem to have gone quiet. Now, you can speculate as to a million things there with obviously the World Cup, his disappointment and not getting in that Brazil squad. Is it waiting now till they're back in Dubai? It's a great photo opportunity, isn't it? With the sun, the palm trees, the hats and everything else in the background for a Bobby style photo shoot. But it's an interesting one. But yeah, from everything we sort of have found out and been digging around, there is an offer right now on the table for Bobby.
Can I just get your own personal opinion on that? Because like I say, it's split fan opinion immensely. There's the a pragmatist school of thought who says, look, he's probably his best days are probably past, and if we can get some money for him now, great, and certainly shouldn't be paying more money, an increase and all that kind of thing. The type of chat, Dave, the type of chat where the person who's doing the talking is putting on their accountancy hat, and that's fine. Look, you do you. I never give a shit about the club's money because I don't know anything about it, and very few people do know the full extent of it. So I just want them to spend it. I'm just gonna, that's the naive reality of my supporter existence. Just spend the fucking money. So I don't care. I don't care about the practicalities. Just on a purely what the player means to you, what you think he's worth as an asset going forward, do you want that extension to get signed by Bobby Firmino?
It's a tough one. It's one of those where I think, if I'm honest, Trev, I'm almost arguing like sense over sentiment a little bit, because he's an absolute legend at the club. Whatever anyone says, when he leaves, whenever that does happen, he's going to go as an absolute hero. The toughest bit with Bobby has been that his start to the season was brilliant. No two ways about it. Absolutely brilliant. And then naturally there's maybe a suspicion's the wrong word, but I'm going to use it. Suspicion is it for the World Cup squad. Is it that drive to get in that Brazil team? And he did make the squad before the World Cup. Since that disappointment and just towards the end of, as the break was coming up, he did tail off. There's no two ways about it. There was a period where he wasn't getting goals, he wasn't getting assists. He wasn't playing terribly, because it's not always, binary in that sense. But that is just my concern, that we've seen the best of Bobby Firmino. If he renews, yeah, it's great saying, he's the fifth, the sixth choice attacker, whatever you want to label it as. But let's be honest, with our injury problems, he's been used quite a bit, and that's just the slight risk for me. His wage isn't small either. I don't know what the terms will be or what's on offer to him. If there's been speculation? Is it less? I genuinely don't know. Personally, and I love the player, I have to be honest, but as a purely business sense, I would have liked to have seen another attacker come in, Trev. That's just being honest. But I wouldn't be gutted if he did renew at the same time. It's one of those. It's not bad, it's not good. But if you ask me, sort of gun to my head, I think it would have been a good time to wrap it all up with a fanfare this summer, personally.
I think you wouldn't be alone in that, to be honest, man. And you know, we will talk in a couple of minutes about some of those guys who I think a huge swathe of Liverpool fans would like to see coming in, and the Bobby memories just fired out the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out, kind of thing. Fans are fickle when it comes to that type of thing. So we'll focus on some of those potential recruits in a moment. But just to stay a little bit closer to home with guys that are sort of on the books at the moment, you have a little bit of a revelation around offers for a couple of our lot. Would you like to talk us through those particular things?
Yeah, it's not like the headline names by any means, but people within the squad, there've been solid inquiries and actually offers for a few. So not the biggest names, but Tyler Morton, Leighton Clarkson, and the old favourite Nat Phillips. going through that one by one. I think it's almost unfortunate for Morton and Clarkson. They're both out on loan. Morton's at Blackburn, Clarkson doing well at Aberdeen. They're both doing well, to be honest, especially with Morton. He's doing well right at the top end of the Championship. So, you know, he's young, he's English. There is an offer. Blackburn have made it clear if they do go up, they want to make that permanent. Now, that doesn't mean Liverpool have to do anything at all, but it will be very attractive to them, I think. There's a lot of talent with Tyler Morton. He's almost a very European-style midfielder. He's not pacey, but he's exceptional technically. You know, almost different from a Premier League-style midfielder. But he's done very, very well in the physicality of the Championship. I would not be surprised if in the summer he goes just on the basis of they'll get a decent offer for him. He's unlikely to break into that Liverpool first team, Trev. It suits everyone well, just being honest. Clarkson, he's doing very well. And this isn't trying to be disparaging in any way. It's really not. He's doing very well at Aberdeen in the SPL. So that's it's a considerable lower level than the Premier League, isn't it? Let's be honest about that. So again, they're looking to make that permanent. There's a few other sort of Championship clubs come sniffing, so I suspect he gets done in the summer. Nat Phillips, it's tragic talking about this in one way, isn't it? Let's be honest. So it's so hard. Nat Phillips wants to move. Let's be clear on that. He's told Liverpool he wants to move. He's been almost the get out of jail free card, the backup, hasn't he? I mean, he's only been used in like the Palace game when we were decimated through injuries and the last few minutes against Southampton just to cover people. He wants to move. I think, in all honesty, Liverpool do want to move him on. It just comes with injury concerns in it and having a fifth choice sort of central defender, a lack of midfielders that way. So I actually desperately hope for him that gets done in January. I know it's going to be like, who's in for him? Southampton have made a solid inquiry there. Leeds have made an inquiry in summer and have asked again for January. So fingers crossed for Nat more than anything. That one gets done, to be honest.
Yeah, I you see, it's a really awkward one, that, and a lot of people talk about the academy not producing and the younger teams not necessarily being the production line we'd want. But of course, a huge aspect of that side of the club is to create, yes, I hate to say it, but saleable assets too. I mean, that's part of the business model. So those two guys, Morton and Clarkson, may end up being part of that sort of churn. And as you say, for Big Nat, you'd like him. The big problem for Nat Phillips is he had that real big window in the sun where he was part of a very important period and you know, part of a successful run for us. But you know, people also remember the other stuff. So I hope for him that it gets done as well. I agree with you completely. If moving to the next little chunk of the show, we want to take a look at a couple of places where we might start recruiting. We'll have a look at attack in a moment, but midfield has been the big area for so many of us where, we've been talking and I'm on record saying, much to the annoyance of an awful lot of the Twitterati, that I think it was a really bad idea not recruiting a quality midfielder when it was patently obvious that was what was wanted, literally in the shape of Mr. Tchouameni. I don't see why you don't have a backup or a gettable second choice. I thought that was what we were supposed to be good at. So let's have a look at maybe midfield recruitment. What are you hearing there around stories that might have any legs at all?
Where to start with midfield? I think midfield was the biggest source of drama, concern, or any sort of adjective you want to put against it for the summer. And from what we'd heard, that midfield, due to the lack of recruitment, if that makes sense, I'm not really including Arthur in that for the last day loan, did cause sort of ructions with the scouts, the analysts, and I just want to be clear, I'm not saying that's what's happened to lead Ward, Graham to resign, but there's a lot of misgivings, if that makes sense, behind the scenes. So it's been a talk around lessons learned for January and obviously going forth to the summer as well. So what we've heard is, in simple terms, Liverpool want a midfielder. I know there's going to be, as per the Twitter conversations I saw, me and you were tagged in on a few people debating that, but Liverpool clearly want a midfielder in January. Now, if you talk about it as almost like a shopping list and your top targets, Trev, you know straight away in January how hard it is to get big players through the door. And at the same time, we all know who Liverpool want as their top shopping list items, so to speak, the big names. So we won't spend too long on this because probably people shouting when they heard this. But the Bellingham, the Enzo Fernandezes of this world, etc. Even to an extent, Caicedo. People that are definitely on that shopping list. So can they get those top targets in? Massively unlikely. Let me just rephrase that actually slightly before someone does go mental at this when they hear it. I'm not putting Caicedo, but I'm quoting the first two as, the top tier that they'd want. Can they get them in January? Highly, highly unlikely. So then this is where it really comes to what's been sort of discussed, lessons learned, if you want, from the summer. Liverpool want a midfielder, Trev. There's no two ways about it. There is an extensive list of options, people that have been scouted, people that are being looked at. So just to throw sort of the key names that we've heard there, Manu Kone, who plays at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Do you know what, Trev? I forgot how many names I could butcher in an hour period, but we can probably go for the record today.
Let's get it.
My pronunciations. Fofana at Monaco, so he's in the French squad. We've looked solidly at him. There's also been a few mentioned. Now, this is where we have to be careful because the World Cup's a great clickbait item, isn't it? A great tournament just to throw names up. But we have apparently looked at Musa at Valencia, the American midfielder. Amrabat to a lesser extent, the Fiorentina guy who's playing with Morocco. That we've been told that is very much a lesser extent. But what we're being told is a couple of key things, Trev. Liverpool are not desperate, but they really, really want a midfielder for the January period. They don't expect to get the top names if they can. Amazing, but those are proven highly unlikely. So they do have a serious shopping list of options. What we were also told there, Trev, is I think it's kind of a bit known, maybe not well known, but a few people have said it. As you mentioned, they went hard for Tchouameni. They also went hard for Bellingham this summer. I know people might be going, no, they didn't. They went hard to Dortmund this summer for Jude. They were just told in that summer he's not for sale at any price. So, long story short, Trev, I would be absolutely astonished if a midfielder hasn't arrived by the end of the January window. So I know that almost sounds like staking credibility, but there is massive interest in getting a midfielder in from the shopping list, and there's an acceptance that if you can't get your top targets this January, you need to get quality in still.
Well, it would be very exciting if we did get a recruit with some news of something definite on the Bellingham front or the Enzo front. With Bellingham, who's just an incredibly gifted footballer, and I think I'm not paying any attention to the World Cup. I haven't actually seen any of it, but you can't escape it. And it was really interesting to watch the reactions of some internet pals of mine last night as they were saying, oh God, it's really, really going to sting if we don't get Bellingham at this point, because he really is proving himself to be a wonderful footballer. And it's going to really hurt having had this extended connection, this elongated flirtation with the lad, and all these sort of all these lovely things that people can focus on in terms of potential connections and friendships and how and this and that. And he's following this lad and he's saying that thing, yourself, all the intangibles. But it won't just be us. This is where we have to get realistic. Bellingham is so good that everybody's looking at him and thinking, well, I would like him to be playing for me. But who are the people who can really afford him? So there's us. There's potentially the crowd you mentioned earlier on who could have new ownership and therefore be sloshing around a bit of money as well at Manchester United. There's also, I guess, City, for sure. Who are the other clubs that you've heard linked with him in a solid way? I know at least one La Liga club, the obvious one. Anyone else you've heard?
Chelsea are very much interested. From what we've heard, they're not. Can't say they're ruled out, so to speak, but they're not at the top. One thing that I would say is I would rule United out. It's not really seen as attractive by the sort of Bellingham camp. I think you cannot rule Real out. If you ask me my gut tells me Bellingham does fancy, and this bit I want to be clear is gut. This isn't, we've not heard anything, we've not got any whispers from anything from the AI crowd, etc. I think Bellingham does fancy the move back to the Premier League, but
hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Real Madrid is a huge name, a huge club, maybe the club, you can argue realistically, Trev, and have to look at certain things like Cruz, Modric coming to the end of their time. So there's going to be a huge gap there. I know they already have world-class midfielders, but, to add Bellingham to it would be an absolute dream for their legacy as well for the next sort of 5-10 years. I think this is just being honest. I am ready to be hurt, Trev. I am ready to be hurt hard. I am ready to embrace the darkness on this. And I'm going to be deadly honest. If you ask me, gun to my head again, it will all come down to whether, I'm saying FSG because you don't know who the owners are, the price negotiation. So let's just play it's FSG still in charge when this comes up to really negotiate it. Will they pay the price? Because you look at the players in the England squad at the moment who he's doing all the bits with, Hendo, Trent, Bellingham are media savvy, Trev. They're clever lads, let's not pretend it. They know how the game works. All these photos, all these interviews, all these things they're saying, they are not stupid lads. They know what they're doing. Now, they also don't strike me for 1 second, Trent or Hendo, as guys that are silly enough to get themselves into this position, even just as a wind-up, if you know what I mean, to, have it blow back on them. So I am ready to be hurt big time, Trev.
You're all in,
time.
Dave. You're all in.
All in. I really am. I'm not even going to hedge my bets. I am all in on this big time.
Fuck it, I'm gonna join you on the Bellingham bust, and I've been so sketchy about it, but I right, we're adopting this as a show policy. We're all in, and if the midfield is a clear place where recruitment is necessary, a place where it's optional, and some people might say necessary, is an attack. Obviously, the ongoing Darwin Núñez evolution and an awful lot of the infantile and puerile commentary around him and his ability, not really enhanced by things I was reading about what happened at the World Cup. That's going to be a distraction away, as is the amount of money associated with Darwin Núñez and the expenditure on our attack. But you don't lose Sadio Mane and not attempt to replace, if not like for like, then somebody who can do that job. That is not Darwin Núñez, and that is not what he was bought for. So we're going to be looking at attacking players for sure. This team needs to evolve. With that in mind, we've mentioned Bobby Firmino, will he, won't he? I've seen names on the regular. The one that keeps coming up is Gakpo. But there are at least two others that will not go away. Is this World Cup stuff? Because I think certainly one of them is World Cup related. But you can see where I'm going with this. If Bobby Firmino is taken out of the equation, if that contract doesn't get signed, and if the Núñez teething period goes on for another long while, we do have immediately then issues in terms of personnel in that attack. We've seen bananas situations like Oxlade-Chamberlain having to do a stint in the front three and stuff like that. It's bananas. So where are we in terms of any of the solidity around stories like those ones linking us to Gakpo? Do you think it's all paper talking? Which ones do you think have most merit?
Probably a little of column A and a little of column B. So from what we know, Liverpool, I can't say they're moving for an attacker. That would be too strong, probably, Trev. But they are looking at attackers. Now, I'm not saying that's for January, definitely for summer. I don't know if it is Bobby contingency, if you want to call it that, possibly. But Liverpool are definitely looking, or scouting, probably the right phrase, hard on certain attackers. So, yeah, the Gakpo thing's been all over the Dutch media, but being honest, we'll come to him a bit later. I can't really see that for us, but it has been mentioned. Kudos, the Ghanaian lad, the Ajax player, absolutely. We've definitely been looking at him. The other one as well, Trev, Noah Okafor. So he plays for Red Bull Salzburg. He's not really done much, so to speak, for Switzerland in this World Cup, but he's one that we've been looking at as well. Again, I genuinely don't know. I can't, being honest, I can't think it's a priority. Midfield is the obvious priority. I don't know if it is Bobby contingency, so to speak, but we have genuinely been scouting. Now, I sent you this, I was mentioning it to you before the James Pearce article around Diogo Jota, but the Jota injury was horrific, really. Essentially the guy has torn his calf, so he's going out with the team in Dubai mainly for his rehabilitation. There's no expectations that he's back before February, maybe even March. We need a bit of luck, a bit of good healing there in the sunshine, so to speak. So that was mentioned as well, but I don't know. My gut tells me it's window shopping or looking or preparing. I'd be astonished if anything happened in January attacker-wise, but we are definitely scouting, looking at players, if you want to call it that, Trev.
Well, the remainder of this season, and the necessity of getting top four, I put that in quotation marks because if the form continues in the way it is, forget about necessity. It might be necessary, but it's just not going to happen. But the remaining shiny bauble on the table is the Champions League, and if we were to manage to get ahead of that next massive obstacle with their gleaming new toys in midfield to just sort of poke us in the ribs, then that is the big objective for the season. Then for me, it's the only realistic one, and we will really need Nunes to manifest in his full abilities sooner rather than later. The Jota thing is an absolute tragedy, Dave. It's a fucking disaster because the kid had been such a weapon for us. That it just leaves us really, really hampered. But look, do you know what? It's nice to maybe for the second half of the show shrug off the existential angst around Liverpool, and let's have a look at other clubs and what they're doing or not doing, and it gives us a nice little bit of distance. So we'll start close to home in terms of Premier League rivals or other clubs within that division, and we can't look past the ongoing shenanigans at Chelsea. It is tremendously entertaining. The stuff that shows like this were based on, and it continues apace. They don't seem to be finished. You've mentioned already that they, are being rumored to have interest in Bellingham, but man alive, there's so much more going on there. I don't even know where to start with this, so I want to let you run at it your way, and I might jump in here or there because it's a big topic. There's a lot going on there, a lot of moving pieces. So you start driving the bus, and I'll jump on if I want to check something with you.
Well, I just had to have the biggest swig of cherry Pepsi Max just to get ready for the Chelsea section. Honestly, I think someone someday in Amazon will look back, Trev, and you remember they did that Arsenal documentary over the summer. Someone somewhere is probably going to be, how the hell did we not go to Chelsea? Because all the things that have gone on from the summer to now, it's like Dallas. Dallas was less extreme at what's happened at Chelsea. So kind of we'll summarise some stuff just to bring it today. Obviously, we know Tuchel's gone, all that's happened, Potter's in. Literally everything has been changed by SWEENEY TODD there and his ownership. Absolutely amazing. So personnel structure changes. So they've changed the whole transfer model. Essentially, it was Bowley and Tuchel previously making a lot of decisions, but now there's a technical director. There's a sport, obviously looking at sporting directors, analysts, all sorts of things. And the amount of names now, I know this won't necessarily mean much to sort of general fans, but Macaulay and Winstanley from Brighton behind the scenes, so they pinched them. Shields, expect to come in as sporting director. Stewart, they've not started yet, but they're going to start later. So they have changed their whole operating model, all to essentially get ready for January and sort of the windows coming up. So I am expecting to see massive things. And I've kind of left one name out there because I'm going to come to it. Chelsea are going hard for a Red Bull link-up, Trev. Now, we know, we've heard that before with us, haven't we, a Red Bull link-up. But from what we're hearing, they're going big for it. So fully expect by the summer, Nkunku, the Leipzig forward, that's pretty much done. From what, a lot of people are suggesting, that's pretty much done. They're also trying to get the link up for a couple of other players, but the main one they're hearing is Gvardiol, the centre-back, the Croatian centre-back, who, to be fair, shone quite well at the World Cup. That's a big target for them for the summer. As well, what we're hearing is that they're trying to get a Red Bull link-up in the way Red Bull works, sort their academy, all those types of things. Now, just to butcher another name that I can, Vivell, they're looking to get him in from Red Bull as their sporting director. And all the suggestions are that it was close once, then it didn't happen, but that it is really, really close now to happening. And there's the expectation he comes in as technical director. They also, Trev, tried for Christoph Freund as their sporting director, but that looked close, but didn't happen. Who's doing that? Who's pushing that behind the scenes? I don't know, really don't know. But Chelsea are very much trying to get in bed with Red Bull from a player, operating style, link up, whatever you want to call it. But they are really trying to get their hooks into the Red Bull model. I'd have to take a breath with this because there's just so much to talk about.
There is so much
behind the scenes, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
remarkable. They seem to be just tearing it all down and starting again. And you know what? If it works, it's an audacious kind of a plan. And if it works, it could work really well. It could be kind of the type of thing that you wince at, because it could work really well and therefore elevate them to a status that, you know, would leave us again behind the eight ball with another huge rival who's operating in a way that's very, very difficult to beat. And it's obviously going to have a knock-on effect with the squad of players that are there currently. There were some mad rumours about Mason Mount and Liverpool. We know for sure that their midfield is aging, if excellent, and you've got the likes of Jorginho and Kante there, who may have a final move somewhere in their career, or maybe not. So there could be moves around there. If so, there would, you'd imagine, be likely moves in. So what are you hearing around about player personnel changes that may happen contingent on these link-ups with Red Bull and so on?
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Chelsea are ramping up for the summer and for this January. So you mentioned there Mason Mount. Mason Mount did, everyone's being dramatic, Mason Mount did turn down Chelsea's contract offer. So people started saying, oh, like you said, great signing for Liverpool. Yes, it would be. Going to say this now, Trev, not going to happen. The reason he turned down that offer was, if you remember, they renewed Reece James, just a sort of late summer, sort of the in-between period. They offered him less money. So that was one of the reasons that he turned it down. I would bet good, solid money that Mason Mount does renew. Put it this way, Trev, I'll bet that good of money he renews and doesn't come to Liverpool, that if he does come to Liverpool, I'll agree to have a W tattooed on each cheek, so to speak, and bend over. There's no chance Mason Mount is coming to Liverpool, I'm afraid, so we can scratch that one off. The biggest things, though, that we're hearing from Chelsea are midfield and attack for them predominantly. I know we've mentioned Gvardiol for the defence there, but if we take the midfield, they are red-hot favourites for Declan Rice. Declan Rice is leaving West Ham this summer. He'll have a year left. He is not going to sign a new deal. He's made it clear. He started the intimations about how he wants to play Champions League.
Yeah.
The smart money is he goes to Chelsea. And I know, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Declan Rice personally at Liverpool as well. But all the suggestions we're hearing is that is the smart money. Declan Rice set to go to Chelsea. Now, naturally, everyone's going to think, well, hold on, Chelsea have got about 8,000 midfielders. In the midfield picture at the moment, Kante is coming to an end on his contract, and obviously he's been injured a lot. There is a strong suspicion that might not get done. The other one, being honest as well, Trev, is Jorginho is coming into the final 6 months. And we're hearing it, we'll kind of come to it a bit later, there is huge interest in his homeland as well. So there is going to be at least one departing at Chelsea, and I'd bet good money for a midfield that Declan Rice is one of the ones that's coming in there for the midfield, definitely.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, that, man. It does make a lot of sense, you know, in terms of all the things that he's saying. And again, it's understandable. It's understandable that Reds fans, the minute a great player becomes available, start thinking that, you know, would he be a good fit for us? And absolutely. Also, it's far from entitled. It's well earned at this stage. The club has been performing at such a high level that it makes perfect sense that we are a destination club now, even if the league form does not indicate that. But whether or not we would be the kind of club who would pay, I'd imagine, the astronomical fee that would be required to buy Declan Rice, that's where it gets tricky, right?
Yeah, there's no, unless something changes, which I know it could possibly based on the rumours, but unless something massive changes, there is zero chance we pay that fee for Rice and Bellingham. Absolutely zero chance. But yeah, I'll stick my neck on the line here. I would very much suspect Declan Rice is a Chelsea player this summer. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's their midfield. Their attack, Trev, again, because they just sort of want to reinforce all areas. We know about Nkunku, that is odds on to be done this summer. They're still looking at attackers, genuinely, for this window as well. They had a bit of an interesting Gakpo, but they don't expect to get him. One person they've really looked at hard, and there's a strong suspicion this could happen, Memphis Depay at Barcelona. I mean, for all the talk is, it's either going to be the absolute minimal fee for Barcelona, or they might even cancel his contract. I mean, we've talked at length, haven't we, about Barcelona's precarious financial situation, but Chelsea are genuinely looking at Depay. So that is Depay, however it's pronounced. I can butcher many names, as we know. So yeah, that is a strong suspicion there. One thing that we have heard as well is Pulisic. A lot of rumours that, you know, he might be moving on, and again, that seems to be World Cup talk. What we've actually heard is there's a strong suspicion he stays. He also stays and wants to fight for his position. So we'll see there. But dear God, Trev, it's never dull at Chelsea, is it? Hey?
It really isn't. I mean, the only ones that rival them have rivaled them in terms of, you know, genuinely wow moments and also occasional clown cars are Manchester United, and they have their own ongoing drama created by the world's most famous show pony in Ronaldo. And we know that situation has come to a head. It would appear that he's heading off. They need a replacement. They've said their farewells and all that kind of stuff. It was ugly and a distraction and all that type of thing. I have to say, the longer that was going on, the happier I was, because there are some indications that under the Dutchman, they are getting their shit together in a way that I don't like to see. If they were to take in a genuine, energetic, and contributing apart from the occasional goal footballer for biggish money, then they would start to be a bit of a worry. Is that, first of all, the area you think they need to recruit in attack? And if so, what are the targets you're hearing linked with United?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you think about him, and I think a lot of things about Ronaldo, you know, it does leave a big hole, so to speak, in their squad forward-wise. And I know they've got a lot of attacking options, but some of them have not really succeeded, shall we say. Yeah, I mean, they have looked at replacements. So the big one they started to look at was Osimhen at Napoli, their striker. However, Napoli are having a great campaign. They're still in the Champions League, and the fee they'd want, and especially dealing with a club like Napoli and Guintoli there, was astronomical. So that's pretty much been moved out. Probably, if you ask me, Trev, and I think that this is probably known, it's not so much of a secret by any means. Cody Gakpo, they looked at him hard in the summer. You know, there was a thought that it was going to happen at one time. All the smart money says he leaves PSV in January, and the smart money says he does end up at Manchester United. That would be my solid prediction, to be honest.
Like that one. That's a good one to hang out there for folks. If looking around the rest of the clubs, there's certainly two in Forest and Arsenal who are also looking to recruit. And then Brighton, who may be possibly about to lose one of their prized assets. Talk me through those three clubs as well: Forest, Arsenal, and then Brighton.
Yeah, Forest, incredibly, the window hasn't even started and they've made the 24th signing of their season. So Gustavo Scarpa, I think it's pronounced. So from Brazil on a free transfer, an attacking midfielder, which, you know, Forest are really short of those with the likes of Lingard, Toffolo and all the rest type of things. But it is another signing for Forest. I mean, the one thing whenever we look back, whatever happens with Forest, you can't say the owner and the transfer people haven't thrown the kitchen sink at it, haven't you? Whether that proves successful is another matter. But yeah, they've already made their 24th signing of the summer.
Wow.
Arsenal, this is incredible, and we'll actually see probably how well I can butcher a name now. I think Mikhailo Murdoch, the Shakhtar Donetsk winger, young player, done very, very well in the Champions League for Shakhtar, really shone. A lot of talk that he's quite close, that he really fancies Arsenal. It's a great signing for them. Shakhtar didn't make the knockout stages, so, you know, dropping down into the Europa, and also with everything that's happening in Ukraine at the moment, it just seems a good move for all parties. So there's a strong suspicion that one happens. Brighton, yeah, Trev, I mean, they've been absolutely pillaged by Chelsea for the staff, the back room, everything around that. Leandro Trossard. Now, this, not hearing that this is happening to Chelsea, I just want to be clear on that, because it's maybe an easy link to make that his contract's running down, Potter's there, all those types of things. So it's an easy link to make. But Trossard is not signing a new contract at Brighton. So there is a strong suspicion now that Chelsea are in. Again, I've not got anything solid of that. I'd be lying if I said I've heard anything particular, but there will be clubs looking at him now on a bargain. He might decide to run it down and go on a free, but he ain't signing that new deal. Simple as that.
Very interesting. Now, if we broaden our scope to the grander scheme of things in the continent and have a look around Europe, there are some bits and pieces happening that we can have a little natter about to finish up our show today. And unsurprisingly, a team that's always looking to add to their existing and, you know, very impressive roster is Bayern Munich. I wonder, is there a possibility there of a Liverpool connection too, in terms of one particular player that we've heard linked to the club and apparently a favourite of Jurgen Klopp's? There are a few things going on there at Bayern. Let's start our little European tour there.
Yeah, we know Bayern always look for bargains. They always look to cherry pick from their own league, the Bundesliga there. And yeah, absolutely. It looks like this one's pretty much done on a free for the summer. Konrad Laimer. Yeah, and being honest, exactly as you said, that is a player that Jurgen Klopp had made serious personal overtures towards, really wanted him. And obviously, speaking from the people that, as you know, Trev, we've asked around the Bundesliga, Klopp went hard for him, but he's just not managed to sway him. It seems pretty much certain that he ends up at Bayern in the summer, which is interesting because Bayern have got a lot of midfielders, and I mean a lot of midfielders. They actually restocked there in the summer well with even like the likes of Gravenberch. So that is a bit of a surprise, and there is a suspicion one does leave with him coming in. On the other side, the one thing that Klopp did really like and Bayern did really like, or do really like, I should say, sorry, as well, Lima can actually play right back at the same time as well. So the strong suspicion that we actually got today from sort of shopping around is that Pavard could well be the one to leave. It's not really working out for him well. It's not really working out for him well in the French team at the moment. So there's an obvious sort of move on there because there's a struggle to see who is the midfielder that will shop out. And speaking of their also domestic interest, Marcus Thuram, so the French forward who's actually at Mönchengladbach having a great season there, to be fair, in a team that's only 8, banging them in left, right and centre, getting assists as well. Bayern have made a strong move to try and get him in the summer as well. Interestingly, there's a lot of Premier League teams retaining interest. We've got an interest. I wouldn't say it's strong, but, we've got an interest. United are interested in Thuram as well, but Bayern have made serious moves. And history repeating itself, isn't it, Trev? Whenever a player does well in the Bundesliga, like a Lewandowski, a Goetze, who swoops in on a free? We know how this one plays out.
That's it. And it's kind of, it's depressing's too strong a word, but it is disheartening, isn't it, to see just the incredible inevitability once Bayern Munich get involved. It's almost the same as when Real Madrid do the same thing. Well, in fact, they're very, very similar. They've got that status. They've got the money to offer. They've got the tradition and everything in their favor. And it just seems that once one of those two clubs bats their eyelids at a given player, it's pretty much a done deal. And of course, in Italy, there are a couple of equivalents, not one massive one on the same scale, because I think over the years people have taken turns. You've had your Milan period, you had your Inter period, but Juve, who are in serious overhaul mode and under serious microscope at the moment, will obviously have quite a bit going on. What do we know about what's going on at Juventus? And then maybe is there anything else in the broader Italian scene that you want to mention as well?
Juventus is absolutely crazy, Trev. To be honest, when everything broke around Juventus, I started thinking, Christ, this could be the new, Barcelona drama, as dramatic as Chelsea, that type of thing, and it could give us material galore. Yeah. And also, when all the finances started coming out, I was like, I did think, Christ, I hope Mo Chatra's got his angina spray or something, because he'll be going through the wall seeing all the stuff that's coming out. Absolutely insane. So, under investigation for a while, and this is back in April, they were found not guilty of inflating transfer fees for players and cooking the books, for want of a better phrase. Now, back under investigation, so it seems like it's all coming out that actually they were, long story short, Agnelli's resigned, Nedved as the sporting director, all sorts of things going off. And the big thing that's coming out is court documents being requested by players' agents. So Ronaldo's agents, Mendes requested court documents. Rabiot's mum, who's also his agent, requested court documents about payment structures, because it seems like they've been doing a lot of cooking the books. And for want of a better phrase, Trev, paying players under the table to keep it off the book, so to speak. So naturally, God knows what's going to end up happening realistically at Juventus. But I mean, you're talking about a club that's posted losses now into the hundreds of millions. We've been here before, haven't we? So this is speculation, this bit, but you have to then start thinking like, who've they got that's a sellable asset? So you start looking at players, don't you? Like Chiesa being the obvious one, just back from a horrific injury. Vlahovic. Now, that is all speculation, but a club whose entire board resigns, he's under investigation and has made losses of hundreds of millions of pounds. Does this sound familiar at all, Trev, by any chance?
Oh, Italy, never change. It is remarkable. And of course, I know what you're talking about. They're pals in Spain, but I mean, it's it is remarkable. It's a stunning story, and as you say, as yet only unfolding. The knock-on effects could be massive, or perhaps they may stanch the flow of blood and pull some sort of Chelsea maneuver, and everything will sort of steady. But it just looks like far too big of a scandal to just go away, and there'll have to be knock-on effects there. Like I say, only in Italy, and it's not just it's Juve are obviously the story, but in terms of comings and goings, there are other clubs, Fiorentina, Milan, Inter, who are looking at doing a little bit of moving and shaking. You've heard one or two things there, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fiorentina, Amrabat, the midfielder, in fact, we've been linked with him quite recently. His agent is clearly looking to move him on. He has got a few years left on his contract, and they've got an option to extend, but they have realised he's been in the shop window with the World Cup. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone does make an offer for him in that regard in January. Both Milan clubs, player we've mentioned before, Trev, Jorginho, both Inter and AC, really keen on Jorginho. Interesting, former Napoli player, but an Italian there, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. Again, probably a name I'm going to murder here, but I think it's pronounced Benaker. I think it's pronounced at AC Milan, set to leave on a free as well. There's a lot of rumours linking him with us, but not hearing anything, have to be honest, but he will be an attractive prospect. And the big one AC Milan are sort of stressing about, so to speak, they're trying to get Rafa Leao, the Portuguese winger, who's had a superb season, last few years, really become a property. They're trying to get him on a new deal with his contract, not sort of expired, but with a lesser term that they'd want. So there's a lot of European interest in him as well. So yeah, it's all busy realistically in the Italian world, but a lot of it, to be honest, Trev, tends to be in terms of people looking to poach, shall we say, from Serie A. Jorginho being the exception on the free, but yeah, will be interesting to see what happens in Italy, no doubts at all.
And let's wrap it up then in terms of our European tour. Obviously, we mentioned Real Madrid earlier on, and a transfer window does not pass without their names being connected to the most attractive signings and assets of other clubs. But their partners or their buddies across the city, Atletico, have their own issues behind the scenes and may need to do some financial jiggery-pokery themselves, which will have probably a knock-on effect in terms of personnel. What do we know that might be potentially happening there?
Yeah, we mentioned it sort of in the summer, didn't we, about the financial fair play rules and how Atletico hadn't really balanced the books. So there was always going to be, like you said, a knock-on effect there. So a couple of things, actually. One that we heard today quite solidly, that this isn't the one, but João Felix is looking to leave Atletico. And in fact, they would be quite happy to sell him for the right price as well. I mean, a huge name, huge fee, not really quite worked out. And obviously you can go into the reasons for that, style of football, Simeone, etc., etc. But Mendes is actively shopping Felix around. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. And ideally, they probably like it done in January. It could, 30th of June, that big day next year for financial fair play. But they're very much looking to ship one out in January. And the name that we got today, Trev, as well, Matheus Cunha, so the Brazilian attacker, been a disaster for him personally as well since he moved there. It's just not happened in Madrid for him at all. And that's the reason why he missed out realistically on the Brazil squad for the World Cup. It was a pretty obvious one to see that there. Interestingly, his agent again is shopping him around. Atletico quite happy with that. England is where he's linked with quite strongly. That Chelsea have a small interest. Wolves have an interest as well. The reason Wolves is the Mendes link naturally there, isn't there? But yeah, there is a strong suspicion that either Cunha or Felix are not going to be at Atletico come the close of the January window.
I can only imagine how much industrial quantities of cherry diet. What was it?
Cherry Pepsi Max.
Cherry
honestly.
Pepsi Max. I can only imagine. You've clearly you must have gone through about 4 cans there, because you've been under serious pressure. I'm very much aware that the structure of this show is me teeing you up and letting you off, and you're doing all the heavy lifting on the show. So these are things that should be acknowledged. And I'm heartily impressed as ever, Dave, with the breadth and depth of knowledge and references that we've got here. We've literally churned through a tremendous amount of information, and I have no doubt that when it comes to the next show, hopefully next week, we'll have exactly the same, if not more, to work our way through, hopefully with some more seriously tangible and real links as we get closer to the season returning. So let me just say, fair play, man. That's a lot of stuff that you put on the table there, and hopefully people enjoyed that trip around the Liverpool universe, the grander Premier League, and then into Europe. And look, it just remains for me to say, as ever, thanks very much.
No worries. Pleasure, man.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.